Before we begin today's story, imagine standing alone on a frozen alien world with nothing but your courage and an apex predator beside you. If you enjoy tales where humans defy the universe's expectations, make sure to like this video, comment your favorite predator-human bond below, and subscribe for more true HFY sci-fi stories every week. Now let's begin. The storm screamed across the tundra, flinging shards of ice against the observation shelter like an angry god testing the walls for weakness. Inside the cramped module, 6 pairs of alien eyes flicked across data panels and holographic displays, recording every swirl of snow outside. To the team of Nixily researchers, this was just another frost survey, documenting the territorial patterns of apex predators on Nivalis 7 before mining corporations decimated the ecosystem entirely. Yet today something shattered their routines. Their audio sensors picked up a rhythmic crunching of boots against hard-packed ice, too precise and confident to be any native creature. Adjusting their visual arrays, the aliens focused on a lone figure trudging through the blizzard. A human male. He's not even wearing thermal armor, hissed Driksha, her mandibles vibrating in disbelief. Her iridescent carapace shifted from muted gray to alarmed crimson as she magnified the image. The human wore what looked like minimalist survival gear, thick enough to break windchill but without the power nodes of advanced environmental suits. He moved unhurried, as if strolling across a park path rather than a Death World glacier. "Look at his respiration rate," murmured Holler, a reptilian with bronze scales flecked by frost as his breath hit the cold module air. Calm. Perfectly controlled. No signs of hypothermia. They watched in silence as the man reached a shallow ridge, stomped down snow to create a small ledge, and dropped his pack beside him. From within, he drew out several vacuum-sealed slabs of meat, bright crimson against the eternal white. He peeled the seal with practiced flicks of his blade, the steam of thawing flesh curling into the stormwinds. "Is he baiting something?" asked Driksha, tapping into the satellite's predator tags. Her chitinous fingers drummed rapidly on her console as she searched for apex signatures within proximity. A warning chirped. One life form. Massive. Closing in. The snow itself seemed to quake as the creature emerged. Its body rippled with silent menace under a coat of dense, silvery white fur dappled with gray. Its shoulders rose nearly to the human's chest even as it padded low on enormous paws. The mane around its head billowed in the winds like a blizzard-crowned halo, framing yellow eyes that glowed with predatory intelligence. 2 elongated saber teeth curled down over its lower jaw, glistening with saliva that froze to pale beads on contact with the air. "A snow lion," whispered Holler, unable to hide the tremor in his voice. Even their armored ground rovers avoided these territories when satellite scans showed snow lion presence. Entire mining crews had been lost to them in the first exploratory phase. Yet the human did not flinch. His breathing remained steady. The team's directional mic caught his voice, low and resonant, tinged with humor. "Easy girl," he murmured. "I know you're hungry. Let's fix that." He tossed a slab of meat several meters forward. The snow lion paused. Its ears twitched against the biting wind. With regal caution, it advanced, muzzle flaring as it sniffed the offering. Its massive tongue flicked out, curling around the chunk and pulling it into its maw with a deep, rumbling swallow. The alien team watched in stunned silence. Their research had classified snow lions as non-social apexes with 0 recorded bonding behaviors. Even mating pairs only tolerated each other during seasonal cycles before violently parting ways. The idea of one tolerating another species, especially a fragile off-world mammal like a human, was anathema to everything their xenobiology databases recorded. The man reached into his pack again. This time, instead of tossing the meat, he extended it towards the lion, palm open, slab balanced on his gloved fingers. The blizzard howled between them, a white void of deathly cold, yet neither creature moved away. Slowly the snow lion lowered its head. Its whiskers brushed his sleeve, ice cracking as its beard-like mane flexed forward. Its cavernous jaws parted. The human's hand remained rock steady as the predator's saber teeth curled within inches of his wrist. With a soft chuff, the lion took the meat and swallowed it whole. "He's not using scent masking," Driksha whispered, flicking through the infrared scans. "No hormonal dampeners. No field emitters or control chips. This is raw interaction. Perhaps neural inhibitors are implanted?" Holler suggested weakly, but he was already scanning. Negative. The lion's neural activity was completely natural, dominated by hunger, contentment, and a growing pulse of protective attachment. The human crouched, placing the last chunk of meat at his feet. Instead of taking it, the snow lion lowered its massive head and nuzzled his chest. The force of its affection nearly knocked him backward. He chuckled softly, wrapping his arm around its thick mane, fingers sinking into the dense, living warmth. "Good girl," he said. "You're getting thin. Let's fix that." The alien team felt a collective shiver pass through their bodies, each in their own way experiencing a primal, evolutionary fear. For Driksha's people, apex predators had driven their kind underground for centuries until their technological renaissance. For Holer's species, massive desert raptors once dominated their evolutionary planes. The concept of taming or bonding with such creatures was alien to their very cores. Yet here was a human, a deathworlder, yes, but small and unarmored compared to their galactic soldiers, reaching into the maw of a lion that could decapitate him with a single annoyed flick. The snow lion huffed, pressing its forehead against the human's chest, pushing him back onto the snow with a heavy thump. The alien team tensed, expecting a swift kill. Instead, the lion rumbled deep in its chest, a thunderous purr, and curled its massive body around him. The human laughed softly, adjusting his parka hood as the lion's warmth enveloped him. "Looks like you missed me too," he said, voice muffled against its fur. Through infrared scans, the team watched as his body heat stabilized. Where his thermal signature had been dropping steadily toward hypothermia range, it now rose comfortably. The lion's body formed a living barrier against the storm winds, each breath creating a swirl of heated vapor around his torso. Its tail curled protectively over his legs, and its chin rested atop his shoulder. Within moments, both appeared asleep, cocooned in warmth amid the howling fury of Nivalis 7. Driksha clicked her mandibles rapidly, thinking, calculating. Why does it protect him? These creatures abandon even their own cubs in famine cycles. Holer flicked his tongue contemplatively. Perhaps it doesn't see him as a human. Perhaps it sees him as something else. Like what? He shifted his gaze from the sleeping pair to the swirling storm outside. Like her cub. Silence fell within the module as their audio feeds narrowed to nothing but the slow, synchronized breathing of man and beast. Each alien felt something shift within them, a recalibration of everything they knew about humans, about predators, about bonds stronger than hunger or fear. In the swirling darkness beyond their frosted windows, dawn threatened to rise. The blizzard showed no sign of weakening, but as long as the lion slept with the human nestled against her chest, he would not freeze. No data classification could capture what they witnessed. No xenobiological paper would ever convey the truth trembling at the edges of their minds. For perhaps the first time in their careers, the researchers felt an emotion they could not label. It was awe. It was fear. It was a faint, growing certainty that if a human could walk among apex predators unarmed, unafraid, and loved, then humanity itself might be the greatest apex of them all. And far above the storm, orbiting satellites continued their silent watch, recording the moment a fragile mammal and a death-world lion lay together as the guardians of each other's warmth, changing everything the galaxy thought it knew. The storm raged through the night, but neither the human nor the snow lion stirred. When dawn finally clawed its way above the horizon, it revealed a world transformed into endless white dunes beneath a sky the color of burnished steel. Inside the observation shelter, tension crackled like static as the alien researchers huddled around the thermal feed. No one spoke. They simply watched. The human's eyes fluttered open. His breath rose in faint clouds as he adjusted his position, stretching carefully to avoid disturbing the massive predator draped around him. The snow lion's chest rose and fell with deep, rumbling breaths. Its mane fanned across his torso like a living blanket, and when he moved, it let out a sleepy growl of contentment. "Morning, girl," he murmured, voice rough with sleep but calm, affectionate. His gloved hand stroked the thick fur under its chin, fingers curling against the warmth. The lion shifted, pressing its massive skull against his palm before pulling back to yawn, exposing fangs longer than his forearm. Its tongue curled, flicking frost from its whiskers as it blinked golden eyes at him, unconcerned by the cold that would freeze any other mammal solid in minutes. Driksha adjusted the external mic feed to catch the faint vibrations of their interaction. She could hear the lion's steady heartbeat beneath its purrs, a sound so powerful it resonated through the snow itself. Beside her, Holer hissed softly. "He has no weapons," Holer said, his forked tongue flicking in and out with agitation. "No defensive emitters. Not even a thermal beacon. If the lion changes its mind, he is nothing but meat." "He knows that," Driksha replied. Her mandibles twitched with a mixture of fascination and dread. "And yet he is unafraid." The human pushed himself upright. The lion rose with him, shaking its mane free of snow. Frost crystals scattered into the air, catching the weak morning light like shattered diamonds. He reached into his pack again, retrieving a new set of vacuum-sealed meat slabs. Steam coiled from the thawing flesh as he unwrapped them, laying them out in neat rows atop the flattened snow. "Breakfast," he said softly. The snow lion sniffed each piece before devouring them one by one. Its jaws worked with brutal efficiency, slicing the dense muscle fibers as easily as a vibroblade through cloth. When it finished, it licked the blood from his gloves and pressed its massive head against his chest. He leaned forward, resting his forehead against hers, their breaths mingling in the frozen dawn. The alien team recorded everything. Heart rates, neural scans, subvocal vibrations. But the data felt hollow, an incomplete explanation for the impossible trust unfolding before them. Then the wind shifted. At first, it was only a subtle change in direction, carrying with it an unfamiliar scent. The snow lion's ears twitched, its pupils narrowing into predatory slits. It raised its head, fur bristling along its shoulders. The human's eyes flicked toward the ridge to the north, scanning the snow dunes with focused stillness. "Something's coming," Holler said, feeling the tension ripple through his scales. Drickshaw tapped the proximity sensors. The satellite overlay flared with multiple heat signatures approaching from the northwest. They moved in a dispersed line, flanking the area with practiced formation. "Frost reavers," she confirmed. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "A full hunting pack." On the thermal feed, the outlines materialized. 6 creatures, wolf-like in posture but reptilian in build, covered in armored hide that shifted color to match the snow. Their spine tails flicked behind them, balancing each step as they slithered low across the ice, jaws parted to taste the wind with forked tongues. Their eyes burned a dull orange, fixed on the human and the snow lion with predatory calculation. The snow lion let out a low growl that reverberated through the ice beneath it. The human reached out, fingers brushing along its mane in slow, grounding strokes. "Easy," he whispered. "Not yet." The largest frost reaver stepped forward, talons carving deep grooves into the frozen crust. It raised its snout, tasting the meat scent lingering in the air. Muscles coiled beneath its scaly skin as it shifted its weight, calculating angles of attack. The others spread out, forming a crescent that cut off retreat in every direction. Inside the observation module, panic flickered through the researchers. Their eyes darted to the automated defense systems lining the module's exterior. They could deploy drones, trigger shock pulses, or call in orbital support, but any intervention risked alerting the predators to their position. Worse, they risked shattering the moment unfolding before them, a moment that might redefine everything they knew about human capabilities. "Do we interfere?" Holler asked, scales twitching with anxious tremors. Drickshaw said nothing. Her mandibles scraped together softly as she watched the human rise to his feet, snow crunching beneath his boots. He didn't draw a weapon. He didn't even raise his hands in defense. He simply stepped forward, placing himself between the snow lion and the advancing pack. The lead reaver snarled, a guttural rattling sound that carried across the silent ice. Its companions echoed it, tails lashing as they spread wider. Their claws clicked against stone buried beneath the snow, a sound like blades on armor. The human didn't move. He closed his eyes, exhaled slowly and opened them again, calm and resolute. The snow lion rose to its full height behind him, mane bristling as it let out a sound that was neither roar nor growl, a thunderous reverberation that cracked across the valley like an avalanche's first fracture. The frost reavers froze. For a heartbeat, silence reigned, broken only by the keening wind. Then the lead reaver lunged forward, jaws snapping open to reveal rows of serrated teeth designed to shear flesh from bone in a single bite. The snow lion moved. It exploded past the human in a blur of white and silver, its massive paws slamming into the reaver's skull with enough force to crack stone. The creature screamed once before collapsing, its neck broken. The lion didn't pause. It twisted mid-strike, jaws clamping down on a second reaver as it tried to flank from the right. Blood sprayed across the snow in a vivid arc, steam rising as its body thrashed once and fell still. The remaining reavers scattered backward, hissing and snarling. One attempted to leap onto the snow lion's back, claws extended to rake its exposed flanks, but the lion rolled sideways, crushing the attacker beneath its bulk before tearing its throat open with a precise bite. Within seconds, 3 reavers lay dead. The others circled warily, weighed by primal calculation. The snow lion stood tall, fur streaked with blood, saber teeth glistening. Its mane billowed around it like a war banner in the storm winds. Its golden eyes locked onto the final three predators with an expression that needed no translation. Leave or die. The reavers hesitated, tasting the air one last time. Then, with a chorus of guttural clicks, they turned and slithered away across the ice, vanishing into the white dunes as quickly as they had appeared. Silence returned, heavy and absolute. The snow lion turned back to the human. Blood stained its muzzle, steaming in the freezing air. For a long moment, they simply regarded each other. Then the lion lowered its head and pressed its forehead against his chest. "Good girl," he whispered, his voice rough with emotion. His gloved fingers slid into her blood-matted mane as he rested his forehead against hers. "Thank you." Inside the observation module, no one spoke. The feed captured every trembling breath, every shift of fur against fabric, every soft vibration of the lion's purr rumbling through the frozen silence. Drickshaw released a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. Her mandibles quivered with something deeper than relief, something approaching awe. "He didn't order her to kill," she said softly. "She chose to protect him." Holler's golden eyes blinked slowly, the nictitating membranes flicking across them in contemplation. "Because she sees him as her cub. Or her pride mate," Drickshaw countered. "Either way," Holler murmured, "she will die for him. Or kill for him." The human crouched, wiping blood from her muzzle with the edge of his sleeve. His movements were slow, deliberate, unafraid. The snow lion closed her eyes, pressing into his touch, the thunderous purr vibrating through his chest. In the distance, the storm began to rise again, dark clouds rolling across the horizon like a gathering army. The human glanced at the sky and back at the lion, lips curling into a faint, tired smile. "Looks like we're stuck here another night," he said. "Better find shelter." The lion huffed in agreement, lowering herself to the ground. The human slung his pack over his shoulder and pressed his forehead against hers one final time before stepping to her side. She rose, towering over him, and together they walked into the swirling white, their silhouettes fading into the blizzard like shadows swallowed by dawn. Inside the module, the researchers sat frozen in silence, each mind echoing with the same unspoken truth. They had come here to study predators. Instead, they had witnessed the rise of something far more powerful. And deep within them, a primal fear stirred. For if humanity could tame death itself, what else might they command? The storm fell upon the tundra with the merciless certainty of a falling blade. Snow drifted in dense, suffocating sheets, driven by winds that shrieked against rock outcrops and carved ice dunes into stark, shifting sculptures. The research module trembled under the onslaught, its armored shell groaning as if protesting the weight of the planet's fury. Inside, silence reigned, broken only by the flicker of data streams across translucent screens and the slow, methodical clicks of Drickshaw's mandibles. They watched. Their external sensors tracked two faint thermal signatures moving steadily through the white void. One, broad and immense, pulsed with a heat source almost impossible in this environment. The snow lion, its dense fur insulating a body burning with predator vitality. The other was a fragile flicker by comparison, humanoid, flickering with brief cold dips where exposed to the wind. Yet it moved with calm precision, never faltering, each step in rhythm with the beast beside it. "He is leading her," Holler observed quietly. His tail twitched against the metal floor, an unconscious echo of the tension winding through his serpentine body. "Not merely following. He guides her to shelter," Drickshaw replied, her voice low. Her compound eyes narrowed as she watched the human place his hand against the lion's shoulder, pressing lightly as he angled them toward a jagged ridge to the southeast. They reached the shelter of a fissured cliff face where the storm winds parted like a river around stone. Snow piled against the dark rock in curling drifts. The snow lion sniffed the base of the cliff before digging with powerful sweeps of her paws, scattering ice in great arcs behind her. Within moments she exposed a hollow beneath an overhang. She turned, looking back at the human with a low chuff that sent steam curling from her muzzle. He smiled, the movement softening the frost-stiffened lines of his face. Without hesitation, he crouched and crawled into the hollow, his gloved hands brushing snow from the packed earth floor. The snow lion followed, ducking her massive head and shifting her shoulders to squeeze through the narrow opening. Once inside, she turned in a slow circle before settling beside him, curling her tail around his legs like a protective chain. The human pulled his hood back, shaking out dark hair damp with melted snow. He opened his pack, retrieving an insulated canteen and taking a slow sip before offering it to the lion. She sniffed the metal curiously but ignored it, choosing instead to rest her head in his lap. Her mane spilled across his thighs, warm and heavy, smelling of blood, frost and musk. He rested his hand between her ears, thumb rubbing slow circles against her thick fur. Outside, the wind screamed without pause. Within, there was only quiet breathing. His slow and measured, and hers, deep and rumbling with the faint growl of a sleeping predator. Inside the module, the researchers watched every moment in microscopic detail. Neural scans showed the snow lion's brain rhythms shift into a guarded rest cycle, her subconscious still tuned to every external vibration. The human's vitals remained calm, heartbeat steady, body temperature stabilized by the lion's warmth. He trusts her completely, Holler said. There was a note of wonder in his voice that neither tried to hide nor name. He should not, Drickshaw replied, but there was no conviction behind her words. Her mandibles scraped softly in thought. And yet, perhaps he should. Hours passed. The storm raged on, battering the cliffs in a constant assault. Within the hollow, the human pulled a small ration bar from his belt pouch and ate slowly, chewing each bite with deliberate care to preserve hydration. When he finished, he tucked the empty wrapper back into his pouch, his movements quiet so as not to disturb the sleeping beast. His fingers returned to stroking her mane, curling thick strands between gloved knuckles. His eyes remained distant, focused on something neither the sensors nor the aliens could see. The snow lion's ear twitched. Her golden eyes blinked open, pupils narrowing to slits before widening again in the dim shelter light. She lifted her head, sniffing the entrance, her whiskers flicking rapidly. A low growl rumbled from her chest, vibrating against the human's legs. He did not tense. Instead, he placed a calming hand against her muzzle. "Easy," he whispered, his voice quiet but firm. "Wait." She stilled, though her muscles remained coiled with readiness. The feed's audio sensors picked up the faint crunch of snow outside, nearly lost beneath the storm's roar. Through thermal imaging, the alien team saw a new heat signature approaching from the west, moving swiftly across the ice fields with an upright bipedal gait. Drickshaw switched to magnified visuals. Her compound eyes narrowed as the figure resolved. Tall, wrapped in layered thermoptic camo that rippled silver gray against the snow. A rifle hung across its chest, barrel capped to prevent snow ingress. Its visor glowed with shifting data streams as it scanned the area. "Another human," Holler hissed softly. The figure paused at the hollow entrance, scanning the disturbed snow with efficient sweeps. It reached up, tapping the side of its visor to cycle spectrum modes before stooping and peering into the dark. The snow lion let out a low growl, rising halfway to her feet, her mane brushing the stone ceiling. The approaching human raised one hand, palm out, in a gesture of calm. "Easy, Kiva," he said, his voice muffled by his helmet but carrying the same calm authority as the first human. "I see he found you again." The man in the hollow shifted, his mouth curling into a faint smile. "Hello, Captain." The newcomer ducked inside, pulling back his hood to reveal pale hair tied at the nape of his neck, eyes sharp and gray under the tactical visor frame. He assessed the snow lion with practiced confidence before turning to the other human. "Command was worried," he said. "Your beacon cut out for over 6 hours. Storm interference," the first man replied. He continued stroking the lion's mane, unfazed by the captain's arrival. "Didn't need the beacon anyway. She found me." The captain's gaze flicked to the snow lion and back. "I see that." For a moment, neither spoke. Outside, the blizzard howled without mercy. Within the hollow, the only sounds were the steady breathing of man and beast and the quiet rustle of tactical gear as the captain settled into a crouch. "We're moving out at dawn," the captain said. "Command wants her relocated before the mining convoys arrive. Too many idiots with guns in those crews." "She won't leave the territory without me," the first man replied. He looked down at the lion, whose eyes blinked slowly, pupils wide with contentment as her head rested against his thigh. "And I'm not leaving her behind." "That wasn't a suggestion," the captain said softly. His voice carried no anger, only weary resignation. "But I know better than to argue. Get some rest. I'll take first watch." The first man nodded, his eyelids already growing heavy. The snow lion shifted closer, pressing her side against his body. Her massive tail curled around his ankles. Within minutes, his breathing evened into sleep. The captain watched them in silence. His eyes softened, though his posture remained alert. Outside, the storm began to ease, winds falling to a sullen moan as dawn's first gray light filtered through the clouds. Inside the module, Drickshaw leaned back from her console. Her mandibles scraped softly as she tasted the dense, unfamiliar emotion churning in her chest. "He is her cub," she said finally, her voice almost inaudible. "No," Holler replied, his own eyes fixed on the screen, unblinking. He is her pride. The thermal feed flickered as the first rays of sunrise broke across the ice fields, illuminating the hollow with pale gold. The snow lion lifted her head, blinking into the light. Her muzzle twitched in a soundless chuff as her ears flicked back. Then she lowered her head once more, pressing her forehead against the human's chest with gentle finality. Within the fragile warmth of their hidden hollow, surrounded by the silent witnesses of another world, predator and man slept on, guardians of each other's lives in a galaxy that understood neither bond nor mercy. And beyond the storm's dying winds, the aliens watched, knowing this was only the beginning. The storm spent itself by dawn, leaving behind a silent world of pale gold and long shadows stretching across the tundra. Hoarfrost coated every exposed surface, glinting like shattered crystal under the first hesitant rays of sunlight. Within the hollow the snow lion stirred. Her ears twitched as she lifted her head, golden eyes blinking against the light. For a moment she simply watched the human sleeping against her mane, his breath rising in slow, even clouds. Then she exhaled, a quiet chuff that ruffled his hair. He woke with a faint smile. Without speaking, he raised a hand and pressed it against her massive cheek, fingers curling through the fur along her jawline. She rumbled in her chest, leaning into the touch, and for that moment, they existed in perfect stillness, two apexes bound together beyond fear or hunger. The captain sat near the hollow entrance, visor darkened against the rising light as he scanned the terrain beyond. His eyes flicked toward them as the human sat up. "Storms past," he said, his voice rough with fatigue. "Extraction window in 90 minutes. The human nodded, pulling his hood over his dark hair. He shifted to face the snow lion, resting his forehead against hers. Their breaths mingled in a thin curl of steam. The captain watched silently as the massive predator closed her eyes, pressing back with careful restraint so her saber teeth did not graze his cheek. "She's ready," the human said softly. "Convoys are inbound," the captain replied. "They'll have heavy transports and pulse rifles. Command wants her sedated and airlifted before mining starts tearing up her territory." "She won't survive captivity," the human said. His voice held no anger, only a quiet finality. He looked down at the snow lion, stroking along her mane, feeling the deep rumble of her chest vibrate through his gloves. "And she won't let them take me either." For a moment, silence pressed between them. Outside, the wind whispered over the ice dunes, carrying distant echoes of transport engines. The captain exhaled, breath hissing against his visor. "Then what's your plan?" he asked. The human looked out at the endless white, at the horizon cut with shadows of distant mining convoys crawling like armored insects across the plains. His gaze hardened with quiet resolve. "She stays here," he said. "Her territory. Her life. No cages." "They'll kill her," the captain replied. "You know that." "Not if I show them why they shouldn't." He rose to his feet. The snow lion followed, her mane brushing the ceiling of the hollow as she stretched to her full towering height. Her tail flicked against his legs with possessive precision before curling protectively around him. Together they stepped out into the dawn. The captain followed, rifle slung across his chest, scanning the dunes ahead. The first mining transports crested the far ridge, massive crawler rigs bristling with drilling arms and seismic stabilizers. Flanking them were armored escort vehicles, each manned by security teams in matte black power armor. The convoy crawled forward in rumbling unison, carving deep trenches through the virgin snow. The human walked toward them without hesitation. At his side, the snow lion moved with silent grace, each footfall compressing the snow without breaking its crust. Steam rose from her broad shoulders, curling into the cold air like ghostly banners. Her golden eyes remained locked on the convoy, pupils narrow slits of intent. Through magnified visuals, Drickshaw watched from the observation module. Her mandibles clicked softly as she focused on the human's expression. Calm, resolute, unflinching. Holler leaned closer, his scales rippling with tension. "He walks to them like he owns the ice," Holler murmured. "Perhaps he does," Drickshaw replied. The convoy halted as they approached. Armored security fanned out in formation, rifles raised but fingers off triggers. Their helmet visors flicked with tactical overlays, highlighting the lion's massive frame in glaring red threat symbols. One guard stepped forward, voice booming through external amplifiers. "Stand down and step away from the creature," he ordered. The human continued forward, unconcerned. The snow lion's lips curled back in a silent snarl, revealing fangs that gleamed like ivory scimitars in the morning light. Her tail lashed, slicing a thin furrow into the snow behind her. "I said stand down," the guard shouted again. The human stopped 10 paces away. He raised a gloved hand, palm outward in silent command. The snow lion froze mid-growl, her ears flicking back. Without turning from the guards, he spoke in a voice that carried calm authority across the frozen plains. "This territory is claimed under the Apex Preservation Accord," he said. "You have no jurisdiction here." The guard's visor flickered as his HUD processed his words. Then he laughed, the sound harsh and metallic through his speakers. "That accord was nullified for Nivalis 7 under emergency extraction protocols. Now step away from the beast." Behind him, the other guards shifted, boots crunching in unison against the snow. The human's eyes flicked across their formation, measuring angles, noting tension in their stances. Then he lowered his hand and placed it gently against the lion's chest. "Kiva," he said softly. Her ears twitched at her name. Her pupils widened. For a moment, the galaxy itself seemed to pause as she pressed her massive head against his palm, rumbling deep in her chest. Then she turned her gaze on the guards. He stepped forward, placing himself directly between her and their rifles. "If you fire," he said, "she will kill every last one of you before your hearts finish their final beat." The guard hesitated. His rifle trembled just slightly, a fractional shift but enough for his HUD to register a deviation in aim. Behind him, a mining engineer leaned from the crawler cabin, pale-faced, eyes wide as he stared at the snow lion's towering silhouette. "She's one of the last," the human said. His voice remained calm, but each word carried the iron weight of finality. "You want your mines? Fine. Take your ores, build your colonies. But she stays. Untouched. Unhunted. Unchallenged. Or this planet becomes your grave." No one spoke. Steam curled from the lion's muzzle in slow, drifting banners as she stared them down with silent, regal fury. Snowflakes drifted between them, catching the dawnlight like falling embers. Finally, the guard lowered his rifle. One by one, the others followed, the threat icons on their HUDs fading to neutral. The mining convoy engines rumbled as the engineer signaled a slow course correction, steering the crawlers in a wide arc around the human and his guardian. The snow lion let out a deep chuff, her tail flicking once before curling around the human's legs. He placed his hand against her mane, fingers curling into the dense fur as relief softened his posture. Inside the observation module, Driksha exhaled a slow, trembling breath. Her mandibles clicked together softly as she recorded her final log. "Subject number 403 displays command not only over apex predator lifeforms," she said quietly, "but over fear itself." Beside her, Holler's golden eyes blinked once in solemn agreement. On the external feed, they watched as the mining convoy crawled away into the pale horizon, leaving behind 2 figures standing alone on the endless ice, a fragile human and the snow lion who guarded him as if he were her blood. The lion lowered her head, pressing her forehead against his chest. He smiled faintly, resting his hand along her cheek as dawn broke fully across the plains, illuminating the silent truth no database could deny. In a galaxy ruled by apex predators, the most powerful of all was the creature who earned their love. And in that silent, frozen dawn, humanity's true nature revealed itself, not as conquerors nor as prey, but as the unbreakable bridge between death and mercy, predator and peace. The snow lion roared once, a thunderous proclamation that shook frost from distant cliffs. Beside her, the human stood unflinching, eyes bright with the promise of a life beyond fear. And far above them, orbiting satellites recorded the moment a fragile mammal and an apex predator changed the meaning of power forever.